The Forensic Gap by Richard Jonathan O. Taduran, Ph.D. Every year, I receive the same kind of message from former students. The details vary, but the urgency does not. Sir, are you offering any training? Kahit saan po, we just need to complete our internship. These messages come from students in different universities and different cohorts, but they point to the same problem. They are enrolled in forensic science programs, academically ready to move forward, yet unable to find a place where they can complete the internship required to graduate. This is not a sudden crisis. It is a recurring structural problem that has persistently limited the growth of forensic science education in the Philippines for years. Recent shifts in institutional policy have only brought the problem into clearer view. Long before these administrative tightening measures, student progression was already shaped by access to training, some advancing on time, others delayed or stalled simply because internship opportunities were scarce. Understanding this situation requires stepping away from blame and examining how forensic education and forensic practice are organized and where they no longer align. At the heart of the problem is a structural mismatch between what operational forensic agencies are built to do and what universities often expect them to provide. The limits of operational training. Forensic units within law enforcement agencies exist to serve investigations. Their priorities are evidence integrity, confidentiality, and legal defensibility. Procedures are designed to withstand courtroom scrutiny, and access is tightly controlled because every additional person increases exposure to error, leakage, or compromise. From this perspective, accommodating students who are still learning, still developing judgment, and still acquiring professional discipline adds pressures that operational systems were never designed to carry at scale. When access to these agencies becomes limited, universities and students understandably look for alternatives. Some turn to law firms, where students can observe legal processes and case preparation. Others are placed in scientific or analytical laboratories, where they gain experience with instruments, testing protocols, and general laboratory discipline. These arrangements are well-intentioned and not without value, but they function largely as band-aid solutions. Law firms can teach students how evidence is argued, but not how it is generated, preserved, or documented. Scientific laboratories can teach analytical rigor, but often operate outside the legal frameworks that govern forensic evidence, particularly chain of custody, evidentiary continuity, and courtroom accountability. Forensic science sits at the intersection of science and law. Training that isolates these domains prepares students separately, scientifically competent on one hand, legally aware on the other, but not holistically. What forensic practice demands is the ability to integrate scientific method and legal responsibility simultaneously under conditions where error has real consequences. When these training gaps carry forward into practice, the consequences extend beyond the classroom. Inadequate preparation can compromise crime scene integrity, weaken chains of custody, and ultimately place the admissibility of forensic evidence and the pursuit of justice itself at risk. Expansion without infrastructure. The internship bottleneck also reflects a broader pattern. Forensic science programs expanded faster than the infrastructure needed to support hands-on training. Since the formal introduction of forensic science programs in the Philippines in 2012, the number of higher education institutions offering the degree has grown to around 17 nationwide. This expansion reflects genuine student interest and social demand. Universities responded by opening programs and producing graduates. What did not expand at the same pace were dedicated training facilities. Unlike medicine, which relies on teaching hospitals and structured clinical exposure, forensic science education in the Philippines remains heavily dependent on external operational agencies for experiential learning. The number of experienced forensic practitioners capable of supervising students is limited. Purpose-built crime scene training environments are rare. Specialized forensic laboratories designed for instruction rather than live casework are largely non-existent. Evidence storage facilities suitable for student training are even rarer. The result is a system where demand accumulates faster than capacity and where access depends on accommodation rather than design. When pressures increase, whether due to security concerns, workload, or legal risk, the system tightens. Internships become harder to secure, not because students are less deserving, but because the system has reached its functional limits. Training without a training ground. I have experienced what structured forensic training looks like when space is deliberately built for it. During my crime scene investigation training in the United Kingdom in 2009, instruction took place in dedicated crime scene houses, supported by hectares of land used for field simulations and controlled exhumations. These environments were designed specifically for learning, allowing students to repeat procedures, make mistakes, and correct them without endangering real cases. In 2010, during my forensic probationer duty, operational exposure followed a graduated model. Access increased only as competence, reliability, and responsibility were demonstrated. Later, in 2016, my work with South Australia reinforced the same principle. Training environments were clearly separated from live forensic operations, preserving both educational rigor and operational integrity. These experiences are not templates that can be transplanted wholesale into the Philippine context, but they illustrate a critical point. Effective forensic training does not depend on unrestricted access to operational agencies. It depends on environments intentionally built for education, repetition, and mastery of different forensic methods. The solution to the internship problem remains uncertain precisely because it is systemic in scale. Addressing it requires more than opening slots or negotiating temporary placements. It demands long-term investment, faculty development, and institutional commitment. Universities that choose to offer forensic science programs may eventually need to build their own capacity. Forensic facilities designed for instruction, specialized forensic laboratories for student training, and evidence storage stations that allow students to learn proper handling and documentation without compromising real cases. This is not a small undertaking, and it is not a quick fix. But if forensic science education and the forensic profession are to mature in the Philippines, they cannot rely indefinitely on institutions whose primary mandate is not teaching. Sustainability will require designing training systems that match the discipline's scientific and legal demands, rather than hoping access will continue to stretch beyond its limits.